I'm Mike Gilliam. This year marks the 40th anniversary of the Fall of Saigon and the end of the Vietnam War. And while we often hear about Vietnam veterans and their struggles, we don't hear a lot about the children fathered by American soldiers and contractors and left behind. Some of them have struggled, others have done well.
I would not even imagine what would happen to us if we stayed behind. There was no option.
Thousands fled in a mass exodus. Author Kien Nguyen was one of those forced to flee.
That day, the fall of Saigon changed so many people's life. It made me grow up, whether I was ready or not. My mother made me. She, so many ways, ripped away that childhood.
Kien traveled with his mother, brother, and sister. He says getting out of Vietnam was tough. They had been a well-off family with servants, but lost all their money and their nice home. His mother was forced to do many unthinkable things to provide for her children.
My mom, in order to keep us afloat, she had to take the tin roof, dismantle the tin roof, and sell it to get money for us to buy food. So we came to America, and all of a sudden, all that problem was behind us.
But before leaving, life as an Amerasian, born of a Vietnamese mother and an American father, was difficult. Kien says he was acutely aware that he was different.
Kids would poke me, see if I was real, because my hair was curly and I don't look like them, and my skin is way too white for them.
And this is because of your background,
Yes.
your father and your mother.
We were always so groomed, you know, so nicely dressed and wearing sandals while they're wearing bare feet.
Was it difficult for you, growing up
yeah.
of a mixed background?
Oh yeah, I was so keenly aware of who I am. I remember a communist woman walking down the street, and she traveled from Hanoi to Saigon. And she said, "Oh my God, what a beautiful child." And she would come in and touch me, and her comrade was screaming at her and tell her, "That's the product of American. That all evil in there. Don't touch it, it might bite you." And I remember her recoil from me like I'm all of a sudden become poison to her.
Some of it ended when Kien and his family made it to New York, but the scars remained.
I began to have terrible nightmares. And the nightmares always recurring. And it's always about me trying to get out of Vietnam. And as I get to the gate, someone stopped me.
The dreams lasted for years. Kien waking up in a cold sweat most nights and not getting enough sleep. In college, he says, a roommate found him huddled in a corner after having one of the dreams and recommended that he see a therapist on campus. The therapist encouraged him to confront the dreams.
Write down the dream and you just look at it, face it. Why do you have this dream? And I did.
And those memories led to his first book, The Unwanted, dealing with the unwanted children of American soldiers and contractors left behind. Like most Amerasians, Kien doesn't know his father. In fact, an Ohio State University study showed that 76% of Amerasians coming to the U.S. wanted to meet their fathers, but only 3% actually did. Kien tried. He says he tracked his father, an engineer, to a company called RMK that employed contractors and engineers that went into Vietnam to clean up after the war. He says part of him wonders about meeting his father, but another part tells him not to.
I had this image of my father, this really shiny knight in armor, just take me away from all that troubles.
But Kien did find a father figure in Frank Andrews, a psychic who helped out when Kien's mother was ill and undergoing quadruple bypass surgery. He got Kien and his brother to go to school.
Said, "If I take care of you two, when I get old, you take care of me?" And I say, "What do you mean by taking care?" He said, "You need good education. I know you want to be a writer, but be a doctor. Be what your mother wants first."
Kien became a dentist. His brother became an engineer. and now he's an author.
We huddled on our small futons and listened to the foreign sound of marching feet and pounding fists reverberating from door to door down the block.
He says he wants people to take two things away from his book. The first is about the human spirit.
Human strength are boundless. Some people may need to be tested, but we always bounce back.
And the other deals with the ramifications of war.
I give that voice to all those children who couldn't talk about it, who doesn't have the capacity to write about it before you do something in life. I mean, think of the consequences. That's what I wanted the book to speak to people about.
It's getting easier for Amerasians to find their biological fathers. Meet Trista Goldberg. She's Amerasian and an adoptee. She founded something called Operation Reunite.
Operation Reunite is a nonprofit that I organized after I searched and found my birth mother. We incorporated in 2003. Since then, we've been assisting adoptees, Amerasians, vets, and birth family in Vietnam reunite with DNA.
It was an expensive proposition back then, but with prices coming down and the rise of the internet, it's becoming somewhat easier to reunite through DNA.
In 2001, DNA was actually just starting out, so I spent a lot of money verifying that my mother was who she really was and that my siblings were actually my siblings through DNA. At that time, I probably had to spend close to $2,500 a test.
Trista was raised outside of Philadelphia in Bucks County in a middle-class family. She says her dad was a police officer, a detective. Mom was a stay-at-home until the kids were old enough for her to go back to work, and she sold real estate.
I was adopted before Operation Baby Lift, which happened in 1975. And the reason my father, my adopted father, and my mother decided to adopt a child from Vietnam was that my father served in the Vietnam War. He had very positive memories of Vietnam, and when he returned, he wanted to adopt a child from Vietnam, and I was the child selected.
In 2001, she found her biological mother.
We met at an airport in Los Angeles. She flew in from Hawaii, which is where she resides to this day, and I was living in California at that time. So she was overwhelmed with emotions, joy. I had to kind of process how quickly I actually found her just through the help of the internet, different people that I'd never met extend their help and really gave me the strength to do it for other people.
40 years later, with the end of the Vietnam War, Kien and Trista's experiences have had a great impact on their lives and the need to help others. Today, Kien provides dental care in underserved communities, while Trista continues to connect families through DNA. In the meantime, Operation Reunite stands ready to offer a helping hand to families around the world. And Kien's book, The Unwanted, has been optioned by Hollywood to be made into a film. I'm Mike Gilliam for Asian American Life.